And we are live. What up, everybody? This is your boy coming at you for another midnight message. Look, I gotta make this quick. We are on our way out to celebrate my aunt's birthday. Happy birthday, Aunt Chrissy. We getting ready now, and I ain't trying to be late, so we gonna make this quick. Um, what I want to talk to y'all about, today. I think sometimes when we go through life, we get so caught up in the hustle and the bustle, and I don't know if anybody out there is like me, but sometimes I begin to think about my experiences in life, and how they begin to culminate, and what it is that they mean. I tell this story, or I used to tell this story a lot when I first started doing motivational speaking. One of the major events that turned my life around back in 2011, I was going through some hard times and whatnot, and I had my son with me, and we were stuck at the gas station, $6 in my pocket, man. Took a buck, went and got him some chips and some juice, put the other five in the gas tank, and right when I get ready to cut on the engine, and take off, I just kind of had a breakdown, man, real bad breakdown, and I ain't gonna lie, I was stuck there for about 10 or 15 minutes, and just began to think about how I began to get where I was at, and decisions that led me to where where what I was going through, and things that I might have would have did different, and I heard one of the I won't say one of the first times, but one of the few times that I clearly heard God speak to me. And he said something so it was so simple. He said, I still have purpose for you. I still have purpose for you. I know that you're going through tough times and rough times, and I know you may not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but understand that everything that you've been through, everything that you've went through, I will use, for my glory if you allow me to do so. And so I began to, straighten my head up and wipe the tears from my eyes, and begin to reassure myself that this too shall pass, because God still has purpose, and I may not know what the purpose behind what God is doing is, but I can rest assured that He still has purpose, because God doesn't hold on to things and people that He doesn't have purpose for. And so purpose has been a reoccurring theme along my personal, ministry, for that's what God has spoke with me. But to go a little bit deeper into the purpose, this past few, I say the past couple months, God has led me to this passage in Second Kings. Um, my sister used to have these sayings when we was kids. I have an older sister and a younger sister. My older sister 6 years older than me. My younger sister year and a half younger than me. And so a lot of time when we was kids, we would, spend a lot of time. Well, not a lot of time. We would spend time though at home alone with my sister when my mother and father were at work and whatnot. And so my older sister was in charge, and so uh, uh, when she was in charge, she would have these sayings, that she would use on me and my little sister and whatnot. And I remember, one of her sayings that she used to say is, what you see is what you get. What you see is what you get. I remember, I can remember times when, my mom and dad was at work and everything, and, she'd be in charge of getting us dinner or breakfast, or, some kind of meal. And she'd call us into the kitchen and say the is ready and everything. And, we'd sit down, and I sit down in front of my plate, and my little sister sit down in front of her plate or whatnot, and she'd go to the stove and grab the food, and she'd start rationing out the food and everything. And, I can remember her putting the food on her plate, and then putting the food on Portia plate, and then, getting the food to my plate. And, anybody who know me know I like to eat. So, it's been like this a long time. And so um, I can remember looking, at the plates, because, I did my best not to give my sister a hard time, because, she ruled with an iron fist and whatnot. But sometimes I couldn't help it. And, around meal times that she'd do the stripping of the food, I can remember, sometimes looking over at my sister's plate, little sister plate, and then looking over at her plate, and then, checking over at the pot, and, then glancing back at my plate. And before I can even get a chance to open up my mouth and complain, I can hear Quita saying, what you see is what you get. And that was a way of shutting it down. What you see is what you get. And I think sometimes we get like that, in life, understanding that God has given us all our fair share of gifts, our share of talents, our share of resources. And I think sometimes, we kind of do God the same way, where he begins to distribute resources and distribute, gifts, and distribute financial resources, or distribute blessings. And, we see what's on somebody else's plate, and we go back and we check and see the pot all in the meantime, while the stuff on our plate is getting cold. And so, even before I get started in the text, I encourage everybody to check your plate. You know what I'm saying? We get so caught up in comparing and contrasting, and we get on our Facebook and get on our Instagrams, and we see how good everybody is doing, all in the meanwhile we got a plate sitting in front of us that we're not using, we're not eating, we're not consuming, we haven't even paid attention to it. And so, before we begin to grab it off other people's plates and to see what other people is doing, I encourage everybody, check your plate. A lot of times we overgo blessings, we overgo resources, we walk past things that we don't even recognize. We can appreciate what we don't recognize, and a lot of times we are not recognizing because we're too busy gazing at somebody else's plate. Check your plate. What's on your plate? What's on your agenda? What's in your heart? What's in your mind? I know the things on the outside seem to be enticing. I know the grass can seem green on the other side, but check your plate, because the very thing that you've been hoping for, wishing for, praying for might very well be on your plate. What's on your plate? What's on your plate? What has God given you? What has God blessed you with? How has God nourished you? Before we can go reaching and grabbing on other plates, have we checked our own plate? Because if we don't see it, then we don't get it. What you see is what you get. If you're not paying attention to what God is doing with you, if you're not paying attention to what God is doing in your life, if you're not paying attention to where God is taking you, to where God has taken you from, to where God is taking you to, then you cannot appreciate what God is doing with you, what is on your plate. Um, One of the things that God has taken, me in this past couple of months, especially in this passage, I've been, back and forwards over um, the ministry of Elijah, transferring into the ministry of Elisha. And this was actually I began to prepare this for a sermon that I thought I was going to do, that I hadn't ended up doing. And so I was kind of praying, um, praying, asking God, about what I should do with this. And he finally, really led me to do something with it today. It's actually, it's kind of long and drawn out, but I'm gonna give y'all a little piece of it today, because I think that is important. Um, if you go to Second Kings chapter 2, what you'll see is a transition of ministries, um, from the ministry of Elijah to the ministry of Elisha. Back in First Kings 1, I want to say around chapter, it's like 17 to 19, one of those. I got it marked off. Um, we see Elijah come and cast his mantle on Elisha. Um, I I found so much meaning behind that, and I'm not gonna get into that today. I may get into it later. I don't know. But we see Elijah cast his mantle on Elisha, and we see Elisha um, leave his past life to embark on this new life, that God is calling him um, to live. Um, and so then Elisha becomes sort of a second in command, maybe, or a mentee, to Elijah for the rest of First Kings, and the beginning of Second Kings. And then in Second Kings we see um, we see the story of Elijah's transference from the earthly realm to the heavenly realm, and Elisha's um, transition from mentee to mentor. Um, And I had read this a few times even before God had led me to it recently. Um, but there was so much that he showed me, in this time, because I think when we talk about transition, people get excited about transition, and I think that it's not necessarily a bad thing. Transition can be a good thing, especially when the thing that you are transitioning to is a higher place. Sometimes, and I do too. I celebrate a higher call, a higher work, a higher level of operation, and so when God sent me back to this passage, I immediately jumped on the transition. I'm like, yeah, it's a good thing. Elisha's getting a chance to step up and to elevate himself, and so um, I began to get excited about it. But then God said, I want to show you something else. And one of the things that he began to show me, um, the Bible says that without faith it is impossible to please God. I believe that's in Hebrews. Without faith it is impossible to please God. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is the substance of things that you hope for. It is the actual material of those things in which you hope for. And so if we were to break faith down, as it being a substance of what you're hoping for, then you understand that that substance is founded on what it is that you believe. And so Webster defines believe as to accept something that's true, genuine, or real. So if I'm ever to deal with my faith, the substance of things that are hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, the thing that I need in order to please God, I must first deal with what I believe. And what I believe is what I accept. And not only do I just accept it, I accept it to the point in which I know that it is true, it is genuine, and that is real. And so, in order to really deal with the beliefs that I have, the acceptance, those things that I let in and know and acknowledge them to be real, if I'm to deal with that, then I must then deal with those things that I accept, and those things that I accept will be a reflection of those things that I perceive or those things that I perceive. Mm. What have you perceived in your life? What have you accepted? What have you let in? What have you acknowledged? What have you experienced as true, genuine, or real? Like I told you in the beginning of the set, one of the things that always fascinated me is those things in which that I've been through, because my faith breaks down to my belief, and my belief breaks down to those things in which that I perceive. And the truth is this: I cannot be totally responsible for the things that I perceive, because God has taken me through some things that has influenced my perception. And so if I am to acknowledge those things that I perceive, then I must acknowledge the God that is in them, because he has brought me to things that I never could have brought myself to. And it's those things that has influenced the way that I think. It is those things that has influenced my decisions. It's those things that has influenced my lifestyles. There are certain events and certain situations that I will never be able to live life without. They will forever and always be a part of me. And so I must acknowledge the God that has allowed me to experience those things. And in acknowledging him in those areas, I acknowledge him to be the God of conception. Because in conception, what we see is the binding of two things together. And only a God of conception can divinely bring two things together. What God showed me about this transference of ministry, what God showed me about this transition period of Elisha being transitioned into the messenger, and Elijah, watch this, being transitioned into the message, was that there was something that he was trying to get us all to conceive. There were two things that he was trying to bring together. Elijah had to conceive something. Elisha had to conceive something. And check this out, we had to conceive something. And so this transition period was not only just a period in which power was being transitioned, but it was a period where our minds will forever be changed, because the God of conception was at work. What is God trying to conceive in you? What is God trying to get you to see? What is God trying to get you to experience? What is God doing with your life right now to show you his plan, his will? I'm not going to get too much deeper in that, but I want to jump in Second Kings, and I want to jump to verse 10. Okay? Um, He said, yeah, let's go back over there. I ain't gonna go back. Verse 10, it said, and he said, thou hast asked a heart. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to verse 9. And it came to pass when they were gone over that Elijah said unto Elisha, ask what I shall do for thee before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me. And he said, thou hast asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee. But if not, it shall not be so. Let's skip to verse 12 in the beginning. And Elisha saw it. If you don't leave it on anything else, I need you to understand that indeed what you see is what you get. God is doing something in you. God is doing something for you. God is doing something to you. And he is taking those experiences and those things that you've been through to shape who you are and what he wants you to be. I need you to understand this, that God does not waste time on things and people that he does not have purpose for. And if you are still here, if you are still alive and kicking, if you are still living and breathing, then I need you to understand that he still has purpose for you. And I used to do groups on suicide. I used to tell my patients all the time, why is it that you think that the attempted suicide didn't work? The reason why it didn't work is because God still had plans for you and for the life that you have. And so even when you try to take yourself out, as long as the purpose is still in you, then the suicide attempt will never work. If you don't understand this, then I need you to understand that what you see is what you get. Everything that you're going through, everything that you're dealing with, everyone that you're dealing with, every lesson, every piece of faith that you need, every piece of belief that you need can be tied down to those things that you are going through. And if God allows you to see it, if he allows you to take part in it, if he allows it to form your conception, then it must be purpose behind it. So the question then becomes, what is it that I do with it? Lord, what are you doing with me right now? Why are you taking me where you're taking me? Why am I dealing with what am I dealing with? But the one thing that I do know is this: nothing that I'm going through will be in vain. He that hath begun a good work in you will continue to do it until the day of Christ. You still got work to do. So you got to get out of here. You got to get to it. You got to find the meaning. You got to find the purpose. And once you begin to do that, then you begin to live life on a whole nother level. What I need you to understand is that once Elijah saw it, everything else that he went through in life began to make sense. We can go all the way back to when Elijah threw the mantle on him. When Elisha saw what Elisha had to see, then the mantle began to make sense. Then the prophets began to make sense. Then the path began to make sense. Then the process began to make sense. And see, that's when you know that you at a place where you ain't got to give up. That's when you know when you at a place where your faith is building, because everything else begins to make sense, because the purpose that you seek behind it, you are not worthless. You are not a mistake. Things happen for a reason. Things happen for a divine purpose. So it is your job, it is your responsibility to find out what it is. What you see is what you get. And so the next time that you begin to feel down, and now the next time that you begin to feel like you are running out of options, like you don't have no more choices, I got one piece of advice for you. Check your plate. Go back to your plate. Go back to your sustenance. Go back to your foundation, because it is right there that you begin to see God and know what God is doing, understanding that if he put it there, then it must be for you to use it. Let me get out of here, y'all. I love y'all, and I'll catch y'all next time.